Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Marco Chak. I'm back with another video again. This week I'm going to talk and share about how to maximize your productivity, and I'm going to share my most juicy mindset and techniques that I use and have learned along my journey, all in this video today. My wish for you is by the end of the video you get one idea that you can apply today and really become more productive and just create that dialogue with yourself and with maybe even with your friends on how to create a more productive life so you can improve and really reach your goals in the most efficient and fast way. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. I want to start off by sharing a little story of mine. I used to be that kid back in primary school that was super lazy, that didn't really do very well in school because I was always putting my work at the end. I really avoid doing work. I hate doing work because I thought I was not the best kid. I thought I was not smart enough to get stuff done, right? So that was the mind frame I took. And I realized that, I should have more of a growth mindset and actually learn how to become more productive so I can reach my goals and dreams, because I'm a very ambitious person, but I was very scared that I might not be able to achieve what I set in my mind, right? So, that jumps into the first point, is to understand your two whys. The number one why you have to understand in order to be more productive is to understand why you are not doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. For me, back as a kid, it's because I was scared of that commitment. I was scared of being disappointed, or I was afraid that I was not smart enough to do what I want to do. So understand your underlying why of why you're avoiding that work in the first place. Sometimes it's maybe you don't like it, but sometimes it's more deep than that. Maybe your fear around that certain activity or that certain work that you might do a good job or whatever that might be. Or second, you just feel overwhelmed. Sometimes you don't want to have too much in your mind, and you want to execute, but your subconscious mind thinks, hey, it doesn't make sense. I want to really reserve my energy. I want to make sure I'm allocating my energy in the right place. So once you understand why you're avoiding that work, then it gives you much more clarity on how you can actually get into the flow of the work. And the second why, once you figure out the first why, the second why is how can you develop more of a reason behind this work. For us, a lot of humans, right, we can't just do something just because we're simply being told. We want to understand the reason, the rationalization behind the motivation of doing something. So develop your mission around the work. If it's going to the gym, I'm going to the gym because blank. You fill in the blank. Develop a good why. My why is because it's an act of self-love. I love myself, and therefore I want to go to the gym, and that gives me motivation. It's like, oh yeah, I need to show up for myself because I love myself, and that's why I go to the gym, right? Develop your own why on what's empowering for you to get into that zone and that state of mind to really motivate yourself to get into that producing zone, right? And the second thing in this mindset that you can develop to really get more into that producing state is to understand your two activities. So the first activity is your procrastination activity. What do I mean by your procrastination activity? Is that activity you always do when you're trying to avoid that work or when that work comes up. So is it like checking your email? Is it like taking a nap? Is it listening to music? Is it checking YouTube? Is it playing on your phone? So understand what are your dopamine kind of pathways or habits that you want to get a quick fix just because you want to avoid that work, or you're trying to keep yourself busy from actually doing the actual work. By understanding what your procrastination habits are, what that does for you is when you are doing it, you have that self-aware to actually catch yourself avoiding that work. Then you can revert back to your why, your two whys, right? And so that just gives you a little bit more self-awareness. But the juice in this is really in that second activity. That second activity is understanding your cycle breaking motivational activity. What I mean by this is what is that activity that when you do it, it always pop you out of that cycle and really get you into that producing state. I identified my motivational activity, and that is first to clean my room. Every time I clean my room and make sure physical surrounding is neat and tidy, it helps me declutter my mental state. And second activity that's always worked is brainstorming. So I figured out my first why is I'm always overwhelmed with all the things I have to do, and I don't have a clear picture in my mind, and that doesn't allow me to get into the zone, right? So once I have everything fleshed out and I have a clear picture of like, oh, I'm doing this and it makes sense to the B goal and the C goal and the D goal I'm trying to create and achieve, that gives me the path to like, okay, you know what, now you can go down and execute. So that is really very key to understanding your motivational habits. The third and final tip about the mindset to get into the producing state is to ask yourself, hey, you know what, how can I be more positive around a certain task. This really is very important and applies to tasks that you don't really like to do at all. Sometimes you have a task or an activity that your boss tells you to do, or the university tells you to do, and you're like, I can't really apply the first technique, the why. When I think about this, there's no intrinsic motivation at all. But the thing is, like, you should think about how this task is able to help you. So be positive around the task instead of thinking negative about the task and letting all that negativity suck up your energy. And what I mean by this is, think about how once you finish the task, how can that improve your life, or what can you learn from this task? And by focusing on the end goal and the results that you're able to achieve, or how your life is going to be different once this task is finished, you're able to motivate yourself to get that stuff done. Or even like, once this task is finished, what can you use that time to be doing? So by just having a more positive mind frame around a certain thing instead of just being negative all the time, it can really allow you to be more positive and more motivated to get that stuff done. And that is all my 3 tips in how to really set a good mind state to get into that producing zone. Because actually, when we talk about productivity, we think about how to maximize our efficiency and really use the least amount of resource to create the maximize of output, right? But for most of us, the real struggle is really getting into the producing state. So a lot of times it's just that mindset stuff that's holding us back. So once you get the mindset stuff figured out, then in the next part of the video, I'm going to talk about how do you maximize your efficiency when you enter the producing state. So let's get right into part 2. Let's go. Hey, I'm back with part 2. So how do you maximize your production when you're in the producing state? Congratulations for being there in the first place. The first and foremost and the number 1 rule is to put first things first. It doesn't matter how much you produce. If you're not producing the right thing and the most important thing that can take you forward, you're wasting your energy. So identify what is the most important task for you to do in order to get to where you want to be. If you heard about the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of your activities produce 80% of the results. So really identify what are the most important, those 20% activities, and really focus on those things and really make sure it's prioritized high. A framework I like to use is what's important and what's urgent should be on the very top, and just trying to eliminate things that are non-urgent and non-important, right? Sometimes we can keep ourselves busy by doing the things that we don't really need to do. It's not really in the priority, but we just want to do it because it's less scary. Sometimes the most important thing that we have to do is very scary, and so make sure you put the first things first and really get that priority straight. Make sure you're producing the right thing. So tip number 2 when you're in that producing state is to make sure you figure out the macro and then figure out the micro. So what I mean by this is, when you decided, okay, now you know what you want to do, and maybe it's task A, right? But you can't just go right into task A without really fleshing out all the steps that you need to take. So what you got to do is you want to really flesh out task A so you have a good mental picture of how things line up, or what are the steps and things that I need to do in order to get this task done. So if you just execute right away, sometimes it's like, oh, I have to go back to planning and then I have to come back and execute. So it's more efficient for you to really map it all out in your brain and even break it down to mini goals and mini steps so it doesn't feel too overwhelming. Sometimes if task A is such a big lofty goal, like writing a dissertation paper or maybe like writing a whole essay, maybe you can break it down to like research, break it down to interviews, break it down blah blah blah, you know what I'm trying to say? So you maybe this is the first paragraph is today, and then second paragraph tomorrow, and then so you have a more bite-sized digestible thing that you can do, and you can lock down focus instead of feeling like this task is never going to be finished. And it's also very important and very useful tip to actually write down the required time that you would think this task would take. Sometimes you feel like, oh, we have 50 things to do, or maybe 10 very important things to do, but we don't feel like we don't have time. But once you flesh it out, all the time that's really required, it's 15 minutes there, 20 minutes there. Oh, maybe I have 4 things. Actually, this is very little things. I just need to 1 hour to finish those 4 things. Then you have more clarity. Oh, okay, I should have time and energy to finish everything today that I need to do, and that gets you going. Sometimes it's just a mental hurdle, you know what I'm trying to say? It's what's really blocking us from getting the work done. Sometimes it's just our own beliefs and our own perception of what the task ahead really lies. We're creating anxiety. We're really creating a imagined problem in front of us, when sometimes all we gotta focus is the task at hand and really make sure it's not as big as of a problem that we make it seem to be. So that's tip number 2 in terms of how to maximize your productivity when you're in the producing state. And tip number 3 is to really lock down your focus. So once you understand the macro picture and all that good stuff, right? Okay, now you're actually doing the work, you're sitting down, you're doing the work. How do you really maximize your productivity in this state? And the number 1 thing is to really focus. Your focus is very important. Nowadays, you know, everything is designed to take your energy away. Your Facebook, your Instagram, right, your smartphone. So make sure all your distraction is off. All you gotta do is to focus your mind, body, spirit, all in that one task. So you actually enter something called the flow state, which is a very beautiful state. It's where you are so present in that moment for a sustained period of time, right? You actually become totally immersed in that activity, and you actually don't really, you know, time feels more of illusion at that state. And that state's really beautiful because you access something that I can't even explain. It's like creativity comes, inspirational comes, you know, you really do your best work when you're in that deep focus state. So make sure when you're in that zone, no one's really knocking your door, you're not distracted by your WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever that might be, right? Make sure you also have the discipline not to be distracted by your mind, because your mind can like, oh, okay, maybe like check that thing or blah blah blah. No, you're totally in the present, you're enjoying the work, you are loving the hard and the good parts about the work, and you just allow yourself to be totally immersed in that world, right? So that takes a little bit of practice, but breathing, feeling your sensations in your body are 2 good tips that I can share that can instantly allow you to be more grounded in your presence. So that's tip number 3. Really important to really lock down that attention and make sure it's not distracted, so you can really get into the flow state where magic happens. And when you get into that flow state, it doesn't take long for you to do great work. Sometimes an hour to an hour and a half is all you need per session to really maximize the juice from that stage. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, once you really have a good session out of that flow state, you know, it's very important to actually don't overwork yourself too much. Get some rest, get a nice little energy boost. I like to do a little smoothie here and there. I like to go for a little walk, detach from the work, because once you detach from the work, you allow your subconscious mind to do the magic and actually filter and process a lot of that stuff. So as you walk or as you make your smoothie or whatnot, maybe you do a little meditation, or maybe you like stretch a little bit, you allow thoughts and insights to come to you naturally. And also when you go around in nature or something like that, you reflect back on the work and you can actually think about, how can I actually improve on that process? Or you really have a mindfulness walk on that one idea that you want to think about. So have that rest, recharge your body, so when you get back in that flow state, you can come back with so much more attention and creativity as well. And remember, it's so important to also get into the work with a little bit more playful energy, with a lot of fun energy. Sometimes we can be too serious, and I'm again a subject to this, because sometimes, you know, you want that outcome so bad that you are so serious and you feel like the only way to get that outcome is to be serious all the time, right? But no, sometimes that playful conscious energy is what sparks creativity, that's what sparks lightness. So tune into your own emotions, make sure your own emotions are good so you can put good energy into your work. There you have it, my friends. I just hope you got that one thing you can take away with you today and just apply to your life to make it more productive, so that you can really manifest your dreams faster and quicker. You know, it's very good to visualize. I have a visual board right behind me, but it's so important to actually put in the work so that that vision comes to fruition, right? So, and as always, I want to leave a little message. If you enjoyed the video, give a thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you resonate with our company and what we're doing, hey, sign up for a free Discovery Life Coaching session. I would love to have that deep transformational life coaching conversation with you and see how we can co-create a transformative experience for you in 6 months or less. So that's all I got today. And always take care, go kill it. Much love. Yesterday you said today, so put into action today and make it work, baby. There's nothing but greatness and possibilities out there waiting for you. So that's all I got. Peace and love. Check out.